Leadership is like a beautiful woman. When you see it, you will know it.
That is probably the simplest and easiest way to really interpret leadership.
Definitions of leadership have become very contextual and subjective, depending on the background, depending on the experience, depending on the social-cultural orientation of the person. I define leadership as taking responsibility. Leaders is responsibility. You see a piece of paper or a piece of trash on the floor, pick it. Being responsible for a problem you did not create is part of our value system. Meaning, endemic in the leadership ability of any human being is to take responsibility to solve problems, responsibility to care for people, responsibility to recognize the grace and the strength in people, responsibility to be gracious to people when they are obviously at fault or at wrong, beyond the power of a title, beyond the power of the position, the privileges of being the person everybody runs to. Much more important is that leadership is responsibility.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the YouREnough Podcast with your host here, Gustav B. Achu. I am excited today because I have an incredible guest with me. And I don't want you to pay attention to this guy just because he has a doctor in front of his name, right? I mean, this guy is a thinker. The gentleman I'll be talking to today, he's a strategic leadership expert. He's a lawyer. He's an executive coach. He's an author, a consultant in the industries across leadership bases with over 24 years of experience in this industry. As the CEO of the Stephen Leadership Consulting, which is a company created and owns in Dallas, Texas, he helps organizations enhance leadership capacity, bridge skills gap, implement innovative strategies that drive measurable growth, including a 77% increase in results for his clients. He is the author of two very influential books, and I want each and every one of you listening to this podcast, we are going to put a link of those books in the description. Click on those links and order those books. The first one is The Leadership Myth: Why Leadership Principles Do Not Work in Sub-Saharan Africa. He published that in 2021. And then the second book is called The Leadership and Organizational Politics: How to Win Office Politics and Thrive in Competitive Environments, which he published in 2022. But beyond consulting, he is also a publisher of the African Leadership Journal, a weekly consultancy journal for Business Day, and a sought-after public speaker featured on many major media. Guys, I'm excited. Join me, welcome my friend, my brother, all the way from Dallas, Dr. Emmanuel Toye Sobande. Doctor, how you doing, Dr. Sobande?
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for that awesome introduction.
No, it's very deserving, man. It's very deserving. I just wanted everyone to know that you are just not coming from nowhere. You are coming from a place of deep experience, from a place of deep knowledge, deep research, and that is exactly some of the things we need in our time today. Tell me a little bit, what does leadership mean to you? Just to get our guests settled here on the concept of leadership.
That's one of the most exciting conversations I like to have.
I can tell.
Definitions of leadership have become very contextual and subjective.
Absolutely.
Contextual and subjective depending on the mental framework of the person who is defining it, depending on the background, depending on the experience, and depending on the social-cultural orientation of the person. And how do I mean? For someone who grew up in a family sector with a father present, a mother present, he has some form of stability. His definition of leadership will be different from someone who grew up in dysfunction or in a dysfunctional culture or dysfunctional environment. For someone who grew up in a poverty-driven culture with lack of economic resources, the definition of leadership would differ from someone who actually, quote unquote, has a silver spoon. So to avoid all of those challenges with leadership, I read someone write some time ago, and the person said, leadership is like a beautiful woman. When you see it, you will know it.
That is, trust me, that is probably the simplest and easiest way to really interpret leadership. It's true.
Exactly.
When you see it, you know it. Because interestingly, Dr. Sobande, you mentioned something very powerful. I attended a conference which the great John Maxwell was speaking at, and he's considered one of the foremost leaders in leadership. And he said things within the context of exactly what he said. When you see it, you know it.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's very powerful.
A beautiful woman walks into a room, her cologne, her skin texture, her smile, her demeanor, her response to people, her grace.
Yes.
Is then so, and they say she's turning heads. That's where leadership is.
Correct.
It's attitudinal. However, during my PhD and during one of my research sessions, I remember we were put in an intensive session with some of our professors who we were asked to dissect and read through the various definitions of leadership. And we're supposed to come up with our own definition in a few words. But I am grateful to God because my reference to my own definition came from the relationship that I have with my father, came from the knowledge and the wisdom that I have of my dad. And I define leadership as taking responsibility. Leadership is responsibility. And I say the same thing to my kids. If you see a piece of paper on the floor and I say, hey, who threw that paper on the floor? It's not me. I'm not asking you who threw the paper because I need to name and shame the person. I'm asking you because in this house, part of our value system requires that you take responsibility. You see a piece of paper or a piece of trash on the floor, pick it and put it in the trash can because we want to have a clean environment. Cleanliness in our house is our value system. Being responsible for a problem you did not create is part of our value system, meaning endemic in the leadership ability of any human being is to take responsibility to solve problems, responsibility to care for people, responsibility to honor people, responsibility to care for people, responsibility to recognize the grace and the strength in people, responsibility to be gracious to people when they are obviously at fault or at wrong, responsibility to forgive people, responsibility to honor people at every opportunity that you have. So when I say leadership is responsibility, I'm saying it largely from the fact that I have seen people abdicate responsibility by blame gaming and playing the victim card. Anyone who plays the victim card can never aspire well enough to realize their leadership capacity. One of the things I do as a consultant is to help people optimize their leadership capacity. Optimization. The optimization starts from the mental framework. That mental framework that I am responsible for the life I am in. I'm equally responsible for the life of those who are around me. I'm responsible for the needs of those who are around me. So my definition is leadership beyond the power of a title, beyond the power of a position, beyond the privileges of being considered influential or being the person everybody runs to. Much more important is that leadership is responsibility.
That's
people take responsibility.
That is brilliant, Dr. Sobande. That is brilliant, especially because, we live in a time when people believe leadership comes with a role, with a title, with influence, with affluence, with riches. You have to be powerful. So it makes it in the way that many people subconsciously feel that they don't qualify to be leaders. The way you break it down in this introduction of who is a leader really brings everybody into the fold and the possibility of leading. Leading doesn't mean it has to be within a huge enterprise organization. Leading your own life first is leadership. And I also like the fact that you talked about how you really got to understand the power of leadership from your dad.
Yes.
Right? In the time we live today, there is a lot of challenges around the role of the father. but there is no question about how important that is. I want you to touch a little bit more on leadership and the role of a father in today's society. So if you're working a 9 to 5 job, earning a good paycheck, bringing home some good money, but you are still feeling stuck when it comes to building real wealth, I know exactly how that feels. I used to be that way, chasing the paychecks, adding more jobs on jobs, and I thought bringing big money means I would automatically build wealth. But you know what? It took me 2 painful layoffs to finally get the lesson, to understand that, Gustav, you were building the wrong way. Gustav, you need to do something else, because what used to be job security is now job insecurity. That wake up call was a few years ago. And since then, I decided I was going to build a brand to help cater to professionals, to immigrants, to hardworking, hungry people like you who want to see something different, who want to make sure that they don't end up broke, to have a platform and a template to work with. And now I want to create something with you in mind, for you and for your needs. A product designed to help guide you on how to invest and see results from that. That's why I'm inviting you to take part in this poll. It's going to be less than 5 minutes for you. Fill the poll, and when you do that, you are going to be automatically entered into benefit 30% of the early bird access for that program. In addition to that, you are going to have exclusive founders only bonus content, a chance to make this historic product, make it personal, your own pathway along with me. So click on the link below and complete the 5 minutes poll, because you know what? I just don't want to build something. I want to build something with you in mind, with you participating and making sure that it meets your needs. I will see you on the inside. And by God's grace, I will see you at the top.
Thank you very much. I'm eternally grateful to my dad, and I'm also, I must say thank you to you for mentioning my books. One of my books that you mentioned, The Leadership Myth, probably the very first book that I published.
Wow.
The Leadership Myth.
Yeah.
The page, one of the first pages in that book, the dedication, I dedicated it to the memory of my dad.
Wow.
That's the power and the influence of my dad's role in my life. Yes. And what I wrote there, I meant it from the very bottom of my heart. And I said to my loving father, Stephen Toye Sobande, a man of honor who illuminated the path for me and my siblings and taught me about leadership, love, and faith.
Wow.
I summarized my experience, my whole life experience with my dad in those three: leadership, love, and faith. The first experience anyone in life will have with a leadership authority, with an authority figure, is with their father and their mother.
Yeah.
And this is not me trying to espouse my dad and brandishing him as a perfect, no. But I'm just saying that as an adult, and I look back into my mistakes, I look back into my errors, I look back into the conversations my dad had with me and I was being argumentative about, I see through my foolishness. I see through the fact that this man had the timeless wisdom that he gave me and shared with me and my siblings that has shaped my value system. It has shaped the trajectory of my life, and it has shaped the outcome of who I am today. The company that I formed today, called Stevens Leadership Consultancy, is named after my dad. The initial name of that company was called Vote and Complain. And I shared that vision with my dad when I started that company as far back as 2002. Wow. That was 23 years ago. What is the major thing that I'm trying to say in response to your question was that all I did as a child was to observe how my dad led in the home. I observed his conversations, not just with us, his children, with my mom. I saw how he loved my mom. I saw how he was understanding with my mom. Not just at that, I saw how he related with extended family members. I saw my dad show so much love to my mom's family members. I saw how he loved my mom's younger sister, my mom's brothers. I saw how he respected and he honored them. I saw the same way he did for his brothers. When I was a very young boy, my dad used to take me to visit his mother. Anytime he's going, he goes with an envelope. My mom will go to the market and buy foodstuff and buy all sorts of things, and my dad will go and give it to my grandma. When my grandma passed, every year my dad would go to clean up her burial site, paint it, put a wreath there, or I said wreath, put some, gift there and all of that. I asked my dad one day, I said, why are we always doing this every year? My dad said something to me in our native language. He said, a child who is going to bury his own parents naked has showed his son how he wants to be buried.
Oh, I want you to repeat that again.
A child who wants to bury his parents naked and taking his own son along with him to bury his parents naked has showed his children, has showed his son how he wants to be buried.
Yes.
He need not say more. I understood immediately what he was saying. I was a young child. I was in probably secondary school or thereabout. I understood what my dad was saying. He was saying, what I am doing to you is role modeling.
Yes.
So what you see in our culture, in the leadership output in our country here in America or back home or anywhere else in the world is an output of what a father has modeled to a child growing up. What you see in our society is an output of the role model that child has been exposed to. So when a child is exposed to dysfunctionality, when he sees his father abuse his mother, beat her up, slap her face, you will see that child, the first place he will experiment that with or that action that he saw his father do, he will experiment it with his own sisters. He will experiment it with his neighbors. He will experiment it with girls in school. He will experiment it with his girlfriend. When he gets to work, he'll be abusive and condescending towards women. When he now gets to the society, he will continue. When he gets into leadership, he now becomes an abuser of women. Somebody modeled that for him at home. Somebody modeled that responsibility for him. Somebody modeled that lifestyle for him at home. So what I saw or what I see in fatherhood is that everything that I've tried to imbibe in my life and in the value system that I hold there, I saw in my dad. I saw the ones that were strong that I need to improve upon. I saw the ones that were weak. I need to activate and better the Lord. I saw the ones that were completely not acceptable. I decided to improve and get it better so that I can replicate it for my own children and so that there can be a continuous generational improvement.
Absolutely. That is powerful. That is powerful. And I just listened to you talk about the concept of leadership, both starting from the home, moving out into business, which we are going to talk about. I see the passion. I see the drive. What really inspired you to transition from law into strategic leadership?
Thank you. Again, my dad had a very huge library. So I was always reading his books. Reading the books in the library, and my dad will always buy newspapers. So conversations always happen when we have visitors in our house, where my dad and his friends were discussing governance. They were having conversations on governance. So I grew up in a home whereby by the time I was in third grade, my mom had exposed me to reading newspapers of 1960s, in the 60s. So one of the first things, my mom's intention of making me read those newspapers was that she wanted to challenge my ambition. She wanted to challenge my desire because I grew up from a home whereby my parents were educationists and my dad was an administrator. He was in government. He served in government as Secretary of Education at the time. So I grew up with a value system whereby intellectualism was encouraged. I had siblings who were medical doctor, engineer, teachers, So the next thing was for me to study law. So we were 5 in number. So my mom just, okay, you come and study accounting, you come and study law and all of that. So that was the course of study of going to law school. And because when I was young, my siblings were much more older than me, but I grew up fast because of my interaction with them. I was reading the books they were reading. I was reading the newspapers they were reading. So I grew up so fast that I became very argumentative with them based on the knowledge that I acquired.
I can imagine. You're holding them.
My immediate older brother is in his 50s. Our eldest is going to be 60. So imagine the guy. He's 6 years older than me. So by the time I'm growing up, I was friends with their friends who were in the same age bracket, but different from my own age bracket. So God so opportuned me to be positioned to acquire wisdom from them, acquire
Correct.
insights from them, listen to the conversation. I will attend meetings with my dad. I will attend political meetings with my dad. I will attend governance community meetings with my dad. So I was very early enough, I was fascinated by governance, by management, by leadership, by the books that I read. First, I read books about Hitler, how Hitler became, the head of the government in Germany. I read books about the likes of Winston Churchill. I read books about J.F. Kennedy. I read books about Nigerian history. I read books about the Nigerian Civil War, why we struck. I read books, Ojuku's book on Because I'm Involved. I read Awolowo's autobiography. I read a lot of those books. In fact, when I was a young boy, there was a political rally for Achu in our community that I left the house to go and attend.
Wow.
What I'm saying was that I was saturated in that environment. So that when people were going to do consultations for electing or appointing leaders in my society, in my community, they hold the meetings in my house. My dad chairs the meeting. So I listened in on the conversation.
Wow. So you got leadership, you were soaked in leadership early in your life. There was a natural trajectory.
So it was so natural, and I think it was divinely orchestrated. And because I was just fascinated with the fact that how do we make the society better? So what informed me was that I used to have friends that we came together, we used to share books that we were reading. When in primary school, it was called the Famous Five. So we gave ourselves the name Famous Five. So we're doing a project. We're going to be looking for less privileged people. We'll use our break money, put it together. One of us, the mom owns a restaurant. We're going to take food and go and give it to less privileged people in the society. So one day we changed our association from Famous Five to the Golden Crown Club. We formed the Golden Crown Club and started writing the constitution. I was chairman. Another person was president. We had different people and we all had different roles. So I got exposed early enough from primary school so that we're using the Golden Crown Club to raise money from parents, from older people to do charity projects in the community. So I just got interested in it without even knowing what I was interested in. It was later on when I was studying law, as passionate when I was in law school. In fact, my leadership journey started before I got to law school. I went to a polytechnic first. I studied accounting. I was a student union leader. I was the secretary general of the student union. I was a chief. I formed different associations. I was a beauty pageant promoter. We used to bring the likes of DJ Jimmy Jart, Two-Face, name all the musicians. We used to bring them to college in those days.
Wow. So you've been through a tremendous amount of experience in this area. And it's a beautiful thing you're sharing this experience, because I think it really sheds some much needed light on the whole concept of leadership, especially when you look at it from the perspective of the communities we come from. I assume you, just like me, we are immigrants in America. And America is looked upon as one of the foremost democracies in the world, right? Example of great leaders and things like that. Now, one of the challenges I notice, especially in immigrant communities and from people who come from the African heritage like us, is that sometimes we confuse between effective leadership and roles. What does that mean? It means people are more interested in titles, in roles. Oh, I want to be chairman. I want to be the president. But they are less concerned about what the leadership implications of becoming a chairperson, of becoming a president is, and whether that is putting you in a position of serving or being served. I want you to really talk about how to balance that cultural misunderstanding of leadership and how to make it work for many people coming from our continent and even immigrants in America in the new time.
It's interesting that you kind of answered that question in a way when you were explaining it. And I love the way you fused it together about the role-based leadership, because when we got into the philosophical framework of the discussion around leadership, that we call it role-based leadership. Role-based meaning people stumble into leadership because of their technical competence. But leadership is not about technical capabilities. Leadership is about people skill. Because the whole essence of leadership is the relationship between those who are in roles that assign responsibility to manage those who are required to follow. So no leadership when there is no relationship between leaders and followers. So what we have seen in the perspective of our culture and the African descent is that people grew up to see the glamour, the title, the privileges, and they think that is leadership. Let me give you an example of where this orientation started from. When we were young and our mothers cooked food to serve our fathers eat first. Our fathers eat the biggest portion of the meat in the pot. Am I correct? They will assign like maybe 2 big meat or 4. So it is when our fathers are finished eating that we, the children, can now eat. It is the leftover our father eats from that they will now divide to us. My family and I used to live in England at a point. So my daughter said something one day. We're on the dinner table. And my daughter asked my wife and said, "Mom, why are you always giving Dad 2 chickens? You're always giving him 2 big chickens. You only give us 1. And, of course, my wife felt it was a trivial question. I knew where the question was from. And I felt if we did not answer that question correctly and appropriately, it will shape the trajectory of that girl's life forever as to the defining concept of what leadership is about.
That's right.
Because my wife and I grew up from the same cultural orientation. That, as the head of the home, my husband deserves to have the best portion. But here is a child challenging that orientation. Why you giving Daddy 2 meat and you are giving us 1? Because he sees it as a function of a right. Now, the temptation in me as an African man is to shut up and say, "How dare you? Are you querying my authority? I'm the one working hard. I work hard. I did everything to ensure that we have food to eat in this house." I could say that and it will be valid, isn't it?
Yes.
It will be valid for me to say that I am the head of the house. Therefore, I deserve to have the biggest portion of the meat in the house. It is valid. It is valid for me to say, "Oh, I'm the provider. I made the money. It is my money. It's not your money. You are not working." It's valid. All of those things are valid. But I knew that there will be severe and dire consequences and implications if I do not give my daughter the right and appropriate orientation. Now, between me and my daughter, who needs the meat more? I am already grown. She needs the meat to grow, to develop her bones. She needs more to develop muscles, to develop all of those things. As an adult, I should consume less meat. So, what you see among our role-based leaders who are after title and how they have defined leadership is that they were at a point in the trajectory of their life under a leadership that amassed all the resources to themselves, that amassed all the privileges of the office to themselves. And they said to them, "One day when I become the general manager, one day when I become the MD, I will also ride in this brand new car." So it is their life goal and their life dream to enjoy those privileges. So when they get to the office, they were never prepared for the responsibilities of the office. They were only aspirational towards the privileges of the office. That is where the sub-point is that keeps attracting incompetent people into positions of title that they do not have the capacity to run. It is the privileges of that office. And statistically, research has confirmed this, that 75% of the resources of the organization anywhere in the world is spent on the 1% top management crew of the organization. 75%. 75% of the resources in any country is spent on the top 1% of those who are in management or in leadership.
So it's not only a problem of corporate America it's a global problem.
It's a global problem.
But Dr. Sobande, in your book, The Leadership Myth, you argue that conventional leadership principles don't really work in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yes.
That's a very bold declaration.
Oh, yes.
It's a very strong declaration. And of course, there could be arguments for and against. But I want you to tell us how you got to that conclusion, you got to that conclusion, and what are some of the proposals you have as alternatives to fix this?
Thank you. So that position came as a result of my travel around a number of countries, about 14 countries precisely, in cultural research. And the first experience was in 2008. I flew on holiday to Dubai, and I flew on the A380 that just came out. One of the biggest.
Airbus 380, yeah. I remember,
the Airbus. And I knew the days where we had people who traveled to Dubai when Dubai was just a desert, when Dubai was nothing. And here was I flying to Dubai for the first time and seeing how developed Dubai has become. And I kept asking myself a question. How come African leaders travel to Europe, experience the beauty of Europe, they school in Europe, they lived in Europe, they worked in Europe? How come they have not been able to reproduce the excellence in Europe back home in Africa? That question was what was haunting me when I came to that conclusion. Why is it that when African countries got their independence, they did not develop their own leadership system, even though culturally we have an existing leadership framework that was destroyed by the influence of the colonial invasion? Mm-hmm. We're now forced to begin to adopt alien systems of government. Let's give Nigeria as an example. Nigeria experimented a whole lot with different systems of government. From 1914 up until 1956, we had different constitutional provisions. Some argue that those constitutions were more about a trajectory that led to our independence. No, it was about what was the most appropriate system of governance for these people. Why? We were a conglomeration of people with different ethnic backgrounds, different leadership system. We have the egalitarian leadership system in the East. We have the democratic complementarian system in the Southwest. In the Oyomis, in Alafin of New York, for example, we had whereby the Alafin was the king, but another person called Basharon was a supreme leader. We had the Oyomis whereby they can checkmate an authoritarian, despotic Alafin by giving him the calabash and ask him to leave the throne. That was an existing system of government. However, by the time we were importing this foreign system of government, we moved from parliamentarian system in Nigeria to presidential system. When we moved the what. We did not move the why. We adopted the what of the system of governance, but we did not adopt the why of the system of governance.
Why does it work like that?
Why did these people adopt this system of governance? Why did America decide that they want to have a system of government whereby the vice president of the country is also the head of the Senate? And yet, we are talking about separation of powers. So all those doctrines were merely theories that worked for those countries, but they will not work in Africa because of our cultural framework.
Yeah.
That was a cultural context in which those systems of government were developed. But those cultural contexts are not similar to our cultural context.
Yeah.
Democracy is not similar to, that's why I did an interview for Guardian a few years ago, and when I said Nigeria is old enough to develop its own system of governance.
And most countries, you're very right, Dr. Sobande, most countries. Now, when we think about the diaspora community, especially here in America, Canada, and all these different parts where a lot of Africans, immigrants live, we're living in a time today where African immigrants have successfully risen in their careers to point where they are in corporate environments, in major corporations. I used to work in the tech industry for 12 years. I worked in some of the top companies, right? One of the things that always comes up in conversation and even in public utterances with professionals who are from our extraction is office politics. All right. How do we navigate office politics? Our discrimination, this, our promotions are limited to this. I know there are all kinds of statistics relative to that, true. But I want you to shed some light on how to navigate office politics in a way that positions you to become progressive and to have advancement going forward for somebody in the corporate industry today.
Hey guys, just a brief break from regular programming. You see, most human beings, if you really go deep into their heart's desire, they want three things. They want to live a life of growth and development in order to be relevant. They want to be able to build wealth and also leave behind a legacy that will last for perpetuity. In my Guarantee Your Legacy program, which is a custom designed program, I answer these three questions and more for you. I have limited availability on that program. It's an 8 weeks program whereby we meet once a week one-on-one with me. In addition to that, I'll walk through the different critical things that you need to be able to grow as a person, to be able to become relevant, to be able to impact people in order to create a legacy. And in doing that, you can also build wealth. If you already have it, I can teach you how to protect it, preserve it, so that way it lasts for perpetuity. Don't hesitate. If you would like to learn more about that program, click on the link down in the description section of this video, and I sure will see you on the inside. Let's go back to the regular program.
Thank you so much. One of the things my dad told me early in life, when I used to argue with my mom and my sisters and I was frustrated with them, my dad said, never allow anybody make you a victim.
Man, you should have a book of quotes from that man. I'm telling you, incredible.
Never allow
We are blessed to have learned a lot from him.
Yes, he said, never allow anyone make you a victim. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what it means. I felt it was injustice. He was supposed to take sides with me. I felt I was right. I felt he was supposed to come to my rescue, having explained my side of the story to him. But he looked at my side of the story and he was able to puff through the issue. I was playing the victim card. One of the things I tell clients when I do executive coaching is that never live your life as a victim.
Yes.
Or else you become a victim of the politics.
Yes.
Never play the victim card. How do I mean this? There's a difference of something that I've learned, that in life, in the face of adversity, that the workplace or anywhere, no matter how you are treated, learn to respond and not to react. There are two different things. One key navigational tool for anybody who wants to win office politics is that response comes with a strategic approach. Reaction comes with an emotional victim orientation.
Response comes with a solution approach. Is that what it's
strategic approach?
A strategic approach.
A strategic approach.
The reaction comes with an emotional framework.
Emotional victimhood mentality.
Wow, that's powerful.
So,
you are dropping some nuggets here, and I hope people are picking it up.
So
this is powerful.
I have experienced unfairness in life. I have experienced unfairness at the workplace. In fact, it was my years of working in corporate sector that I developed that book on office politics. And I said to people, irresponsible. And if I tell you how I got that inspiration, how I got the idea, it's very simple. It's from the life story of King David in the Bible. David was sent to the war front by his father to give food to his brothers. The Bible said when David got to the war front, his brothers saw him, that he went to give food to. He went to give food. David was going as a servant. Now, mind you, David was never part of the main front of the home. He was sidelined.
Correct.
Hearing the goodies of the family, David was never part of it. So that when Prophet Samuel showed up to bless the family members, David was not there. If not for the Spirit of God that advocated for David, David would not have had somebody speaking for him at the table, including his father, who was not even speaking for him at the table. That's a complete word that you see. When they wanted to appoint him, they had to go and call for David from the backside. Why was David at the backside? On a special day, when the most important person in the land of Israel showed up to bless the family, they now didn't call you, and yet you are a son in the family. Isn't that unfair?
It is.
The same David, who was supposed to be ministry, because it was a glorious thing to represent your family in the military of Israel. It was a thing of pride, but David was not there. David was only sent as an errand boy to go and serve his brothers. In the course of serving, and so many people listen to us who have been serving, this may be your story. He was going to serve. The people he's going to serve did not even appreciate his service. They did not even recognize him. What did they do? His brother started speaking ill of David. They started saying terrible things to David. He said, I know you. I know the pride in your heart. That's what you have come here. What are you doing here? What are you supposed to be there? But the Bible records that David went to give them food based on his father's instruction. But something struck me in that part of the Bible. David did not react to what his brother was saying. David did not react. The Bible said David turned around, looked at the soldiers, and asked them a question. What will be given to the man who kills this uncircumcised Philistine? David responded rather than react. Let me explain. He could have been emotional and wept and cried, after all I'm doing for you, Daddy told me to come and give you food. He could have reacted and speak back at his brothers and lash back at them. But David didn't do that. David responded with a strategic question. What will be given to the man who kills this uncircumcised Philistine? David's question was divided into two. And I tell people, when you go to your workplace, you must go to your workplace with these two mentalities. What is the problem? What is the price? What David was asking.
What is the price?
What's the problem? What's the price? What David was asking at his workplace was that our office is confronted with a Goliath. So I have identified this problem in our organization. But what is the price for me if I solve this problem in this organization? That is how to rise to be a star.
Yes.
That is how to rise to be a star. Are you facing persecution, facing racism at work? Focus on solving problems and keep your eyes on the prize. Focus on solving the problems. And how do I say this and why am I saying this? David was able to ask those two questions because he has a skill set that he has been developing over the years. So when David was to say what he wanted to say to the Goliath, what David was saying to the Goliath was that, look, the God Almighty that I serve helped me when I'm alone in the backside of the desert. I killed the lion. I killed the bear. I did this. What David was that David had gone to so many conferences where he has trained and optimized his leadership capability. Yeah. He knew how to kill a dangerous animal. He has produced results in the backside that nobody knew about. Nobody recognized him for. David killed the bear that was hunting his father's flock. Not only his father's flock, the community. But nobody recognized David for that. Nobody rewarded David for it. Nobody honored David for it. Nobody gave David promotion for it. Nobody increased David's salary. But yet, David was not a victim. He kept doing it. Yeah. He kept manufacturing musical instruments. He kept writing songs. He kept developing his entertainment skills, his writing skills. He started developing ability to produce musical instruments, such that the day there was a problem in the palace, David used his manufactured equipment, his skill set, to go and solve a problem at the palace. So people are looking for solutions at their workplace. They're looking for promotion. They don't know that promotion is hinged on those two things, the problem and the price. There was a problem in the palace. They said the king is running mad. Who can solve this problem? I said, oh, there's a young boy. He has the Spirit of God upon his life. He's so skilled that he can play music that will drive the evil spirit away from the heart of the king. What happened? They called David. David was called at a time that nobody was listening to David's music. It was only goats, sheep that could not speak back to him that were listening to his music. That were listening to him. So nobody recognized him. Nobody rewarded him. Nobody, but unknown to David, that the little thing he kept doing faithfully, dedicatedly, was going to yield results. So I tell people, when you're at a workplace, you have two options. You exit the place or you remain at the place. But either option that you take, you must be strategic about both. You must be strategic about your exit and you must be strategic about your staying on the job. And the strategy involves those two things I mentioned earlier. What is the problem? What is the price? That is how to resolve office politics.
Oh, man. This is a masterclass in itself for resolving office politics. Because you're right, people get distracted a lot. I don't think there's a better way of explaining this with the story of David like anything else.
Oh, yes.
Focus on the price. What is the price and what is the result? That is powerful. But here, let's make a step further here, right? One of the key things about leadership we all know, and generally about life even in itself, is the power of trust. Trust is actually the fulcrum of human relationship, I believe. In the time we live today, there have been a lot of questions around trust because I believe there's been an increased tendencies for selfishness, for self-centeredness, and for thinking only about what is in it for us. I want you to really talk about the role trust plays as a leader and how that was able to help you get about 77% of leadership improvement in some of the clients you work with. What is that role trust played in that?
Well,
and you actually described it as part of an economic deficit or a deposit.
Yes. Because I wrote an article recently, just a few weeks ago. I called it The Economics of Trust in Leadership, the Deposit and the Deficit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The deposit and the deficit, the economics of
That's
trust.
where we got that from. Yes.
Yes. So in that article, I was saying that leaders often fear admitting uncertainty. And when they have that fear, it makes them appear weak.
Yes.
But research shows that the opposite is the case. Vulnerability is what builds credibility, and credibility builds trust. And more often than not, the lack of trust is a slow erosion. And I think that when a leader walks into a room or into a meeting, he senses that the energy in the room has changed. Ideas are thinner, people's attitude are a bit laid back, feedback is muted. The once vibrant flow of honest dialogue has evaporated. Performance numbers now look very, even though it looks solid, but something deeper is shifting. That something is usually trust. And trust is that invisible currency that once depleted, it leaves leaders with loyal titles but disengaged people. Disengaged people. People will not be. You will still. It's just like when you put off a fan. Before the fan goes off, it will still be rolling for a while, isn't it?
Yeah.
After a while, it will stop rolling completely. That's the way it is. Trust is one of the most fragile and powerful forces in leadership. It builds slowly through consistent choices of genuine care. Yet, leaders can fracture that trust. They can fracture it in a moment of misalignment. Just one moment of misalignment. So when employees trust their leaders, like you said, they are 70% more engaged. They are not just 70% more engaged, they are 50% more productive.
Wow.
Not only are they 50% more productive, they are 40% more likely to stay with you on the long term.
So that's how powerful trust is.
That's how powerful trust is. That's how
everything
is everything. So when trust wanes, performance doesn't collapse immediately. It decays. The lack of trust is what brings about delay. It decays. That's why if you watch the governance system in our world, in politics, the decay is not very obvious. It takes years for you to see the decay. The collapse takes years, quietly. Then, in case of an organization, they now find themselves in what we call a cultural debt. A cultural debt. That cultural debt is, when you owe debt to a credit card company. And the thing is that most leaders are not even self-aware, let alone being mindful of how the fact that this trust deficit is going on. And for me, in my years of consulting and in my study of leadership, particularly the leadership psychology, I have seen how trust deficits form in a subtle way, very subtle. It is not very dramatic. It's not a scandal. It's not a public betrayal. And more often than not, when a leader promises transparency but withhold critical information, you are the one making promises, but you withhold critical information when the time is right. The manager who preaches collaboration during training or during staff meeting, but yet he makes the final decision in his closed office without carrying people along. You are eroding trust. You are eroding trust. So when there is an incongruence between what you say and what you do, those are when the micro fractures of trust comes in.
That starts building up.
Yes. That's when it starts building up.
And Dr. Sobande, this is powerful because you are really putting out some information about leadership that I think a lot of people don't spend time. Even me sitting here, I've done some work on leadership. I've read, attended the master classes, but the way you break it down is just so easy to consume, right? And one of the ways you actually help people with building their capacity to lead is through the Leadership Factory, which is like a mentorship program you have. And in that program, you've mentored thousands of young Africans, African immigrants, even people from different communities. What are some of those gaps you identify across your experience mentoring these young leaders and aspiring leaders? And what are some of the things you believe can help close the gap, especially for African diaspora aspiring leaders and young African leaders?
Hey guys, have you been wondering how you could chat with me one-on-one just to talk on your aspirations, your career, your business, and the things you might dream about with your life and you would really like to do with your life? I know it's been a challenge because a lot of people have been sending me inbox messages, asking me questions and asking me how they could get to me. That has been answered for you. I've created a one-on-one program where you can actually book a time. You look in the link in the description. You can book a time and have a one-on-one conversation with me for 30 minutes for a very small fee. If you look down in the description of this video, you will find that information and go ahead and book a time and let's have a conversation.
Thank you very much. One of the things I found out was basically from my own mistakes that we focus so much about the results, the output, without the process.
Thank you. And I like the fact that you bring that. That's a powerful one because I have that challenge with my team every day. I tell them I don't want to talk about results. Process, standard operating procedures.
Yes.
I'm glad I'm aligned with you on that one.
Thank you so much. The process is very important because the process is what sustains your success story.
Yes.
Any success that comes like a fleeting thing that just goes and one-time noise. And that's why you see that there's so much vibes on Instagram, Facebook, because it is the outcome, it's the outlook, it's the packaging. Nobody considers the process. What is the process for making money legitimately? What is the process for sustaining money that you make legitimately? What is the process for multiplying money that you make legitimately? Not instant gratification. Instant gratification. That is exactly where the struggle is for a lot of people. People don't want to focus on the process. They want to get the results. So I've had many people ask me, oh, they want to be like me. They want me to mentor them. What is attracting them is the results they see, but they do not see the process. So I've had people walk up to me that they want to come under my mentoring project. And when we start the mentoring and I start exposing them to the process, they get tired, they give up, they don't show up again.
Yes.
They want the glory, but they don't want to go through the glory.
They want the glory, but they don't want to go through the glory.
Yeah.
Very true. And you talk about process, which is certainly a linchpin of any kind of result you want. Now, one of the most challenging things, because it took me a while to get that mindset and paradigm shift, to focus more on the process before the results. Because the natural human tendency is always wanting to see that outcome, because that is what attracted you in the first place. You want to get into that, right? How do you manage expectation for people coming in and helping them to stay focused on the process? How do you manage that transition? How do you get them to transition mentally?
So what I do now is that when people walk up to me to ask for that, the first thing I ask them the why. What is their why?
Correct.
You want this? Why do you want me to mentor you? Tell me. Write me an expose. Why? Why me? Why my choice? It's the same way somebody invites me to come and speak in the organization. I'll ask them why? Why me?
Yeah. I remember you asked me that question. And I was very impressed. I told my team, this man is solid.
So why?
He just doesn't have a good LinkedIn bio. He is solid. He knows what he's doing. Yeah.
So what is the why of what you are doing? Every morning I wake up with the why for my day. I have a to-do list. As I'm sitting in front of you, my to-do list is there of what I want to do. The why. What is the why? So when we are honest with the why, then we're able to define our motivation. The motivation now serves as the guiding compass to keep you steady, keep you committed, and keep you consistent on what you are doing. Whether you get the result or not, then you will not be discouraged. Because it is the lack of why that people don't go through that gets them to start something, they give up in the face of discouragement. That gets to start something, but they are not consistent in what they are doing. I recently had an interview with a gentleman in California when I went visiting, because I teach. I'm a professor for leadership. I teach in some schools. And
oh, wonderful.
Asking me, how have you sustained writing your article every week?
So you've been writing articles every week?
Yeah, I have a newspaper column. That's my newspaper column called The Leadership Factory with Toye Sobande. So that's what the community is named after, The Leadership Factory.
Wow.
So I said to the gentleman, I said, when I started out, I was not starting out because I wanted to be known as a newspaper columnist. That was not my why. I wanted to put my thought leadership out there. I was a speaker, I was a trainer, I was running consulting. I felt, okay, why don't I document the wisdom God had given to me and share it with people? My why in the framework of the organization we started, and that's the Stevens Leadership. Our why is in our mission statement, is in our document there that says our quest is to provide creative insight and solutions to business leaders and organizations. That is our why. Our why is to offer creative insight and solutions to business leaders and organizations. So when I write with a why in mind.
Yes.
That's why determine the audience, the who. Who is going to listen to this? This is my why. Okay, why do I want to do this? What is the outcome I expect from this? That's the last bit. But when I say the why, where do I want to do this? Who do I want to do this for? Who do I want to serve?
Yeah.
Why do I want to serve these people? What will be the benefit to these people? Those questions of specific, the what, the why, the where, the when, the who. The last part for me is the what. I did not set out to be a popular columnist. My why was not to be popular, was not to be known. In fact, I was surprised early last year, or is it this year, that I heard that my newspaper column has made me to be categorized as one of the top 3% of African thought leaders.
Wow.
And I said, how? How did that happen?
So?
Yeah, how did that happen? They said, when they ran the algorithm across board, your volume of articles crossed the 100 mark range. I said, what do you mean? They said you have articles published and writings published in more than 100 places and at 100 times, that the system recognizes that. So that's why the likes of Oxford and Side Business School invited me, along with some other leaders in Africa, to come to Oxford for us to come and discuss.
Wow. Tell me a little bit of that Oxford experience. How was it?
So, unfortunately, the event didn't hold because the British election
was happening too.
It was happening because things happened politically in England, that there was a change in government and all of that.
Right.
They moved it. So by the time they moved it, I didn't have the luxury of time to be able to attend because I had some family commitments. And for me, family is important to me. I couldn't move family commitments as a result. But I only just heard 2 weeks ago that even despite that, they didn't hold it. They're just going to hold it this year. And I was like, this year.
So you might end up attending it.
I might end also. Just last week again, I heard that, in fact, they're moving it back to next. I said, fantastic, because this year
it's even better.
Already.
I know. And things are going to work out the way it has to work out, right? I think you said something too very powerful, Dr. Sobande. You talked about the why. You see, and why that resonates a lot with me is because I really believe, a big part of what you do is to provide a platform for which especially African immigrants, our young African leaders, can understand what it takes to build nations and eventually a continent with the kind of influence we enjoy in the countries we live in.
Yes.
Because one of the critical things on my platform, I talk about life, I talk about helping people to invest on the stock market to build wealth, but most importantly, I talk about legacies. And I really believe that when you understand the why, it helps you define your legacy, and then you can backtrack in engineering. You do things now that align with that. You talked about when you got up writing your articles, your idea was not to be popular. Your idea was just to make sure that you don't die with your music in you.
Thank you.
That you don't die and all these ideas and knowledge are in your head. And nobody knew that Dr. Sobande lived with these ideas. I really believe that is the key.
Yes.
Because when you go at it like that, number one, you don't have pressure of results. The goal is not, I need to make X amount of money by 2 years. No. That's not your point. Your point is 50 years from today, somebody will look at an article from the Leadership Factory publication and say, a guy lived. A guy lived who was somebody. Right? Now, how do we, from your experience, how do you communicate that necessity of defining your why, of postponing present gratification, of looking at legacies more than frivolities, especially for young Africans and young aspiring African leaders. Because as a people, one of the things I believe you've experienced in your research as a thought leader in leadership is the biggest challenges coming from the continent of Africa are represented even in the peopling in the diaspora. What are some of those things about our leadership mentality that we need to fix in order to transform not only our lives from the family perspective, but even to nationhood?
Thank you for that. It's still in the part of what we're talking about is that let's define our why. Define our what individually, collectively, and societally. For example, I tell people that I don't think Nigerians want Nigeria to develop, and they are shocked.
Really?
Yeah. I said, I don't think Nigerians want Nigeria to develop. I said, those of us living in diaspora, we are very critical of those who are running the government. We think they are stupid. But I have told them that, do you know how many people living in diaspora has gone back home to serve in government and they were demystified?
Yeah.
What demystified them? So individual success is not what is going to lead us to national success.
Absolutely.
Collective success. And that collective success is determined by the grand vision that we have for ourselves. The essence of the why and the process is hinged on one thing: vision. Vision. Why am I doing this? Or why do I want to do this? Is what bets a vision in your heart. And vision is that picture of a preferable future. That vision being produced by the why also produces a discipline in you. It produces a sense of direction in you. So when you have an understanding of your why, I have a why for why I'm writing my articles. That why compels me to sit down, to study, to buy books, to write, to sit down, to meditate. I won't be going about gallivanting, knowing that I carry a heavy responsibility of sharing creative insights and solutions needed by business leaders and organizations. So I am compelled to sit down and pour out my thoughts in such a way that it will be usable, relatable by the people who need it. I won't waste my time watching TV. I won't waste my time partying around. I won't waste my time having unnecessary gist with just anybody. My time will be useful and will be productive. That's why that process, like I said, bats vision. Let me explain to you. In one of my frameworks of defining vision in leadership is that vision does three things for you. Vision refines you. When the why comes up, the question is, who do I want to become? I want to be a writer. Why do I want to be a writer? I want to be a published author. Why do I want to be a published author? Who is a published author? What makes a published author? So vision refines you in such a way that vision takes the dross out of your life. Vision works on your skill sets. It helps you to improve your skill set. Vision helps you to identify the skill gaps that you have. And you say to yourself, okay, I'll go back to school to acquire this skill gap. I am not knowledgeable in this area. I'll go back to school to improve my communication. I'll go back to school to improve my public speaking ability. I'll go back to school to improve my writing skills. I'll go back to school to improve my branding concept. I'll go back to school to do it. I will do it. You acquire skills. That's what the refining process does for you. It takes the dross out of your life. Refining process is like taking gold from the sand in its raw form. Gold is not admirable. Gold is not even recognizable. Diamond is not even recognizable in its raw form until it goes through that refining process. The same way with crude oil. A lot of people don't know that crude oil is not just crude oil, just that you put in diesel or fuel into your car. No. Crude oil has been distilled in 200 different products. Such as the buttons, some of the elements of some of the things we use were produced from crude oil because it went through a refining process. So when you have a vision, the vision, as compelling as it is, refines you to become a desirable product. The diamond that is black will not become desirable, will not become shining. The gold that is dark and rusty and does not look nice, when it goes through the fire, when it goes through the refining process, it becomes very desirable. So vision refines you. Number 2, vision confines you. Vision confines you. Vision would tell you who to be friends with and who not to be friends with. Vision will give you the value system of who comes into your life and who doesn't. Vision will define the boundaries around your life so that you will not sit down with people that talk about other people and say ill of other people. You want to say good things about other people. I tell people, look at your life. Who are the top 5 people around your life? Those top 5 people are an indication of the direction of your life. If you want to go to Australia, and the top 5 people around your life has never been to Australia, nobody can describe Australia to you. Where are they going? Would they be intimidated by your success, or they will encourage you? Would they serve as your cheerleaders?
Right.
They will not be intimidated by your own success. So what the confinement does for you, that it puts you in a class all by yourself. It gives you a classy life, not arrogant, not in a condescending way. It makes you classy in the sense that, let's say, there's sophistication in simplicity. Your life is so simplified. You are not complicated because you have been confined to your own area of speciality. When I mention some names now, because of the kind of vision they carry, it has confined them in such that they become an expert in their field.
Yeah.
Now, the last one, which I would have loved to make the first one, is that vision defines you. It defines who you are. Vision defines you. So if they mention your name now, what comes into people's minds? That's what I grew up with when I was in secondary school. I asked myself, if somebody should mention my name, Toye Sobande, what will come to people's mind when they remember me? If I mention Obama, what comes into your mind? If I mention Mark Zuckerberg, what comes into your mind? If I mention Adam Smith, what comes into your mind? If I mention what's his name? The golfman, Woods.
Oh, Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods, what comes into your mind? If I mention Cristiano Ronaldo, what comes into your mind? Vision defines you. When you see a person who carries a vision, they are so compelled, they are so passionate about their vision. And I said to my clients, vision does these 3 things for you. Vision defines you, vision refines you, vision confines you. If you observe something about those 3 words, vision makes you a fine person. Vision fine-tunes your life. You become an attractive person. You attract success. You attract good people. You attract kind people. You attract loving people, because vision defines you, vision refines you, vision confines you. Because you carry vision, you can't just go up anywhere. Because you carry vision, you can't go to a nightclub whereby they're shooting people and they're killing people, because vision will not take you there. Vision will deliver you from that. If vision will not make you to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Your vision would sit down, you say to yourself, why do I want to do this thing? Why am I going to do this thing? Why do I want to become friends with this person? I said to people, look, if you are married, you have a wife, you have children. If something happens to you today and you die, who among your family members on your wife's side and on your own side can take care of your children?
Big question. Huge question.
I've been asking my clients this question for several years. Then recently, when the former MD of Access Bank died with his wife and his first son, a lot of my clients were calling me and asking me, you've been saying this thing to us for a very long time. I do some teachings on strategic foresight, and these are questions I ask. The reason why I wrote my book was that I felt my dad should have written a book to document his wisdom, and that's why I started writing. That was one of my why. That was one of my why.
Wow.
Because I felt, why do I talk about my dad? And I use it as an example all the time. I'm using it as an example because I'm trying to compensate for the fact that he needed to have documented his thought process, the engagement that I had with that man, so that generations will read him and learn from him.
What a powerful submission. Somebody might think we talked about this before, guys. Listen, this is the first time in my life I'm meeting Dr. Sobande. This is the first time he's meeting me. We didn't have no pre-meeting before this podcast. We didn't have no conversation. I didn't send him no questions. He doesn't know what I'm going to talk about. I just told him the concept of what some of the topics I'll be talking about. For you to be saying some of these things, it's very powerful because it tells me that it is universal.
Yes.
That is what drives me to. I look at my own father and some of the great things he did with his life, and the fact that he passed without a book, without documenting nothing. 50, 60 years of experience, of knowledge, of trials, of temptations, of overcoming, of first-hand learning. And I told myself, Dr. Sobande, I will not die like this. I will die.
Yes.
I will leave everything I have. And you talk about vision, bro. You talk about vision. And I hope somebody is picking this stuff up, because these are things people pay this gentleman thousands of dollars to teach them. And I am getting it here on my platform to you guys free. I hope somebody understands the value of these things. I hope people have papers in their hands with pens. If you don't, go back to this podcast again. It is on YouTube. Take your time, lock yourself up somewhere, take a notebook, take a pen. I have a notebook, a notepad here. I've been writing like crazy while he's speaking. Because people like these don't come around very often. One simple information can transform your life. Identify your why, get a vision. And the interesting thing, Dr. Sobande, and I saw the way you were speaking and the passion started rising. I make a simple prayer on my children every day.
Yes.
I put my hand on their head and I say, Lord, protect them as they go to school, bring them back home safely and 1% smarter. Open the eyes of their spirit to identify their gift, their purpose in this life. Give them the courage to pursue that. Because when you are pursuing that which you are born to do, I can tell, I understand now why you abandoned law. You weren't born for law, no. You're born for leadership. You are speaking here, and you know some of the people who are just... I'm listening to you speak, and I'm thinking about Dr. Miles Monroe. I'm listening to you speak, and I'm thinking about Joshua Selman. I'm thinking about John Maxwell, and I'm saying this guy has been a student of leadership. He has spent time learning, understanding, contextualizing to us, and then also to the global space we are in. Dr. Sobande, how important is mentorship as part of the entire leadership framework?
Hey guys, in addition to all the valuable information I bring to you every week on my videos and my short videos on different platforms, especially here on YouTube, I also have a community of over 2,000 like-minded, serious and driven people who, like you, are receiving exclusively this time a newsletter once a week. And this information in the newsletter is unique, and it only goes to those people who are part of the newsletter community. So if you are interested in getting this once a week update, which includes different tips, different ideas on how to build yourself, how to generate wealth, how to make money, how to build a legacy, go ahead and click down in the link in the description, and you'll be able to join our newsletter community. And when you join that community, you would realize exactly how much value that brings to you on a weekly and daily basis. Let's get back to regular programming.
The number one mentorship you're going to get is from the home, from your mom, from your brothers, from your siblings. I am a beneficiary of sound mentoring, starting with my dad and my siblings. My brothers influenced me a great deal. My immediate older brother is an engineer. He's one of the directors in Lagos who helps with a lot of construction work. And I got fascinated anytime I see him read newspapers, and he's always laughing. In those days, Dr. Ruben Abati used to write a column in Guardian. My brother, every Saturday, we're always looking forward to reading it. That's how I got interested. As I was reading those papers, I said to myself, one day, I would love to have a newspaper column where I will write and I will be giving insights to people like this.
Yeah.
So that action of my brother was a mentorship for me.
Wow.
Now, till date, I don't use comb to comb my hair. I use a brush. I have a particular hairstyle of how I want my hair to be. My other brother, who is a medical doctor here in the US, one of the foremost pediatricians here in the US, was doing exactly the same thing. I had that brush with me for years. The cream I use for my hair, I still use it more than 37 years later. I'm still using the cream.
Wow. Mentorship.
Because I saw my brother using it. I learned how to knot a tie and how to be wearing suits because I saw my brother dressed that way. I saw my brother campaign office to be the president of his medical student association in university. He will always come, he will go buy suits, wear shirt, dress well. I started dressing that way because I saw my brothers doing it.
Wow. Wow.
That was mentorship.
So in terms of the young people today, Dr. Sobande,
Perfect.
how do you get them? How would you advise them to shift a little bit from the vibration of now, from the vibration of quick wins, from the mindset of I want it now, I can make this and I get it. It doesn't have to take that long. What can you tell them to help them be able to recognize and adore and also be able to submit to mentorship as a critical tool to developing their leadership ability?
I encourage them, number one, focus on the process of who you want to become. Identify who you want to become. Focus, number one, identify who you want to become, who you like to become. Identify your skill set that aligns with who you want to become. And identify the process it will take for you to become that person you want to become.
Wow.
And number four, be resilient and committed to becoming that person.
Yeah.
And number five, trust on the grace of God to help you become that person.
Absolutely. You said I like the fact that when you talk, you use very down-to-earth examples, especially tied to the family, because I really believe one of the things that is slowly shifting the world, especially where we live today in America, is the fact that there is this rhetoric, right, on public informational platforms, which is trying to shift the importance of family, trying to take away the responsibility and the influence of parents over their children, of siblings who are older ones over their children. For example, I have 3 beautiful girls, and each time we're going out, my first daughter has specific spots in the car she sits in. If my wife is not around, she sits in the front. If my wife is around, she sits in the front, and my wife sits in the front, and she will sit in the back seat to the right behind the driver. And the second child, who is taller than her, will sit in the third row, right? Every time she tries to bully her big sister to sit, I say, no, you have to follow this process, because this is why you are able to knot a tie. Because you have reverence for your big brother. You looked up to him. He was your hero, right? And I really believe that is one of the things that is really missing in our times today. And the work you do mentoring young people, helping them define leadership, giving them the ability to understand that it takes patience and all of those good things. I want you to talk about some of the mindset shift that you had to overcome to be where you are today. And especially as a very instrumental and foremost African leadership expert.
The biggest mind shift that I've had, and I'm still having, and it's still getting refined every day because of the vision that I run with, is to fill my heart with love.
Oh, wow.
Is to fill my heart with love. Love for God, love for people, and love for the people around me, particularly not just my family. Love for God, love for people. Is love. Wow. That is the key foundation to everything. Love for God and love for people around me.
I was expecting you to bring some additional leadership strategies, but he talked about love. Why love?
It's simple. It's simple. The Bible says, for God so loved the world that he gave up his only begotten son. And this is not me preaching. The world we are living in was built and founded on love.
Yes.
You cannot succeed in this world if you do not have love in your heart. The greatest inventions that have been made was bettered by love. Love was what bettered the idea that somebody should design a car because people were walking. People started using horses. They were using camel. It was not as productive or as effective as a means of transportation. Then the person, out of love for humanity, received the revelation to design the engine of a car, and they progressively manufacture so that you and I can travel thousands of miles, hundreds of miles by car. That same love in the heart of that human being was what created the airplane with the Wright brothers, experimenting. Even when they sat in church and they heard their father preaching, saying that the last invention ever to be created has been done. Man can never fly. People have been toiling with the idea of flying But these boys were looking at their father, and they went to the backyard of their father's house and manufactured the engine, and they flew the first plane. Love is what produced the phone that we are all using so that we can carry it as a mobile. Love is what produced the mic that we are using. Love is what produced the Zoom that you and I have today to make life better for us. Every time you walk in love, you take on the responsibility to make life better for people. No leadership succeeds outside of the love in their heart. Why am I doing this thing? The why must be entrenched in love. For God so loved the world that he sacrificed his only son. What it is in need for you is not as important as the love in your heart for people. So the most important bit when I said it, like I said, I'm not trying to sound religious. Everybody that became wealthy, that became rich, had an instinct of love in them, a huge bout of love in them that compelled them to design something to make the world a better place. Mark Zuckerberg created a Facebook because he wanted human connection. It was the love in his heart that made that skill usable so that today all of us can connect via Facebook. Somebody designed LinkedIn. That's where the connection started from. From LinkedIn conversation, we are now here doing a podcast.
Correct.
It was love.
Correct.
So if anybody wants to become anything, if you want to go under somebody to mentor you, you must love, because in love, people will offend you, but love will make you forgive.
Yes.
Love will make you not be resentful. People say, oh, I'm struggling with ideation. I'm struggling with idea generation. I say, check your heart. Is your heart full of love or hate or resentment or bitterness? Anytime you are filled with bitterness, you can never be inspired. What steals inspiration in your heart is hatred, is bitterness, is offense. But when you are loved, you will download inspiration. Inspiration will fill your heart. When you experience love from your parents, when you experience love, when you are loved from your home, as a woman, you will not be looking for love in a man, in a relationship. When you experience love from your father, from your mother, from your siblings, you will not become a victim begging somebody to love you. You will not go to the workplace being a victim, begging somebody to give you approval. The promotion they give you or they did not give you will not define you because you are filled with love. Love for God and love for humanity. Humanity is not perfect, but God is perfect. But humanity is the extension and representation of God. But God says love. When the disciples walked up to Jesus and said, what is the greatest command? He said, love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as yourself. I have found out in my journey of life, every time I chose the path of love, I win.
Wow.
Every time I chose the path to love, I succeed. It is a proven experience for me. And that's why I'm sharing it.
That's incredible. That's your story and you're sticking to it. Dr. Sobande, wow. What does legacy mean to you?
Legacy is living beyond your time so that when you are long gone, your footprints are still on the sands of time in a way that you have added to the quality of life for people who were not even alive when you were alive.
Wow. Wow. How has legacy been a part of your leadership philosophy and framework?
Consciously, it was not at the very forefront because my why was not about popularity or fame. Because some people do not understand that legacy building is not fame, it's not popularity.
Yes.
That is not legacy. Legacy is providing solutions, timeless solutions to society's problems, such that people's quality of life improves as a result. So for me, when I want to do something, just like the Rotaract, the Interact, is this for the greater good of all?
Yeah.
It has some utilitarian concept in it. The legacy that we see is, except a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it abides alone. It means I have to be dead to self. It should not be about self-promotion. It should not be about self-preservation. My leadership quest is not about self-promotion. It's not about self-preservation. So when I'm doing the things I'm doing, I'm not doing it to better the lot of me, myself, and I and my family members. I'm doing it for the greater good of the community, of the society that we are living in. That's it.
Wow. This is so powerful. Wow, Dr. Sobande. Man, we can just talk forever. I'm telling you, because the volume of knowledge, experience you have, I know it is going to serve my community. It's going to serve humanity. I will certainly have another opportunity to have you on the podcast again to continue with this conversation. You won't believe it. I had about 20 things, about 12 questions to ask you. I've only done 4 of them. And in those 4, you've tackled so many powerful angles. I said, you know what? I think we'll have to do a part 2. That way we don't overwhelm people, right?
Okay.
This has been a great privilege, great pleasure to have you today for this podcast. Any parting words?
I want to encourage people. I don't know who is listening. Don't despair. Have hope. Have hope. Have hope. And I'm not saying this to sound like a motivational speaker. Hope is the anchor to which you can achieve your dreams. And one of the things hope births is that when the love of God is shed abroad in your heart, hope makes not ashamed.
I even see it on your wall.
Yes. Hope. Walk with hope. I don't know who is here, who is overwhelmed and say, where do I begin? There's so many, because sometimes when people listen to powerful things like this, they get overwhelmed, they get paralyzed, they experience inertia. Where do I start from? See, anchor your desires on hope. How do I mean? Sit down and document your life on paper. People working with me, I always say this to them, document your life on paper. My family has a vision statement pasted on our wall. My children is in their room. They see the vision statement. The Toye Sobande family vision. They know what our family vision is.
Wow, that's powerful.
Oh,
you mind sharing what that is?
Oh, I can read it to you. To realize our God-inspired dreams, goals, and aspirations as a family and as individuals in a way that stretches our intellect, deepens our faith, strengthens our character, and enriches our family life so that we are loving, faith-filled, empowered, joyful, confident, and always close. Our family shall be known to be a Christ-cultured family.
Wow. That's your family mission statement.
That's our family mission statement. And I tell my children.
How many people even think like that?
This family vision statement will determine who your boyfriend or your girlfriend is.
Yes.
This family vision statement will determine who you are going to marry or who you are not going to marry. Yeah. This family vision will determine where you walk and where you will not walk. This family vision will determine where you go and where you will not go. And we have 14 honorable characters that must align with this family vision. And our children are evaluated on it. Even we as parents, they call us out when we default on that.
On those characters.
On those value systems and those characters.
Wow. Wow. This is powerful. This is powerful. I certainly know the concept of family vision and vision statements, but a lot of families don't do that. A lot of families don't sit down to define. You define personal goals for your work, for your career, but you don't define it for the most important piece of your life, which is family.
Our children every year to write their goals. Our children, we sit down with them. Oh yeah, what are your academic goals? What is your... My children have published 3 books now.
Oh, wow.
Of their own.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Last year, my daughter wrote there that she wanted to win an award. A Ring of Honor award. I don't know. I think it's the state award. I know. But I just got a call in my office one day that my daughter, you know what? When we checked, it was her goal at the beginning of that year. And the award was given to her in October.
She has spoken it to life and worked her butt behind to get it
as part of our goals.
This is powerful. This is powerful, Dr. Sobande.
So that's why I said my parting word is hope, because hope must be anchored on something.
Yes.
Anchored on a vision.
Yes.
When you have a vision, you have hope.
Yes.
When you have a vision, you elongate your life, and hope is what elongates your life.
That's fact. That's fact. Man, what a very uplifting and very powerful way to start our day today with you on this podcast.
Thank you.
In fact, just talking to you over the last 1.5 hours, I feel like I'm done for the day. I've had a productive day. I'm going to be calling it a day after this. Thank you so much for hopping on the platform. And guys, if this was your first time on the platform, go ahead and click the subscription key Share this with your friends and family. This is information that I believe is going to transform somebody's life.
Yes.
Because one of the things I picked up, especially from Dr. Sobande's closing words about hope, is to remember that it doesn't matter what the circumstances of your upbringing has been thus far.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter who spoke upon your life, messages of deceit, messages of disappointment, of trying to break you. What really matters is finding a way to stay anchored to what is possible. Defining that dream for yourself, defining that goal, having hope that it is possible, and then stay on it. Dr. Sobande talked about something which I learned today, and that is my parting key part of this conversation. He talked about what vision does to you.
Yeah.
Having a vision, that it defines you, first of all. It refines you. Then it confines you on the path to getting it.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Dr. Sobande, man, I'm working on a conference sometime probably by the end of this year or the beginning of next year.
Okay.
And I want to formally in public extend an invitation to you, which I'll follow up privately, of course. But I just want us to have that conversation in the open. So all my followers on YouTube know that Dr. Sobande committed to consider that invitation. Man, it's a great pleasure connecting with you, my brother.